Hi guys, today I'm going to talk about strings, and I'll try to do it really quickly. So today I want to talk about the fact that most people, or most guitar players, are not buying or looking at strings correctly. So I thought I'd help out a little bit. This is the subject where most of you guys turn off because you don't enjoy this, because it's not very exciting to talk about strings. But I will tell you right now, if you're buying your strings wrong, you're having a pretty miserable life when it comes to guitar playing. So let's talk about strings real fast. Strings, we're going to talk about the low E string because it's easy to talk about. What I want you to picture right now is two little girls playing jump rope. As they're spinning the jump rope is hitting the ground. You kind of hear that? You kind of see it in your head? Perfect. That's what a string does. You hit it, it spins, and oscillates in a circle. Okay? As basically, to put a bigger string on a guitar, we would have to add tension to get it to the same pitch. So now picture those two little girls playing jump rope and walking apart from each other. The jump rope, of course, is spinning a little smaller. The diameter of the spin is smaller. And eventually, it doesn't hit the ground anymore. So big strings are easier to play than small strings. It's a fact. Here's why. Because big strings I can lower, and Intech can lower them closer to the fretboard. Makes it easier to push down on the guitar, makes it easier to play. The notes tend to be a little bigger and rounder, sustain a little longer, and it overwhelmingly has a very pleasing tone to the ear. Now, so why are people told constantly that small strings are easier to play? They're not easy to play, they're easy to bend. So, obviously, just based on what I said, if I increase the tension of the string, in other words a big string, and I have to increase how much tension is on it to get the pitch, it makes the string very tight. That's why it's easy to get low to the fretboard, but it's also why it's very hard to bend. So basically, a big string is not very easy to bend on the guitar. Now, a lot of us, especially hobbyists, don't get to play very often, so your hands aren't as strong as they probably need to be to play guitar. So we play a lot of smaller gauge strings. Acoustics will play 11s or 10s. Electrics will play 8s or 9s, mostly 9s, to get a basically easier guitar to play. Now, first off, if you're not playing leads at all, if you're a rhythm player, you should probably stay away from the small strings altogether. Make sure you have bigger strings, but make sure your guitar plays right, and you have a fantastic instrument. I guarantee the bar chords will be much easier to play because your strings are pretty much right on top of your frets. And they don't sizzle, they don't sound bad because the strings aren't spinning and hitting the frets like that jump rope would be hitting the ground. So, what about if you do both, like me? I'm a hack lead player, hack rhythm player, but I enjoy playing both. So, I play hybrids. Hybrids are real popular now. A lot of you guys have seen them. Some of you use them, and most of you guys don't know why. Either A, you're using them, or B, what they're for when you see them. Well, exactly what I said. A bigger string will have is going to have a smaller spin, a little tighter, a little easier to play, and have a bigger sound. So, a 10 gauge set on an electric guitar would be equivalent to a good size gauge set for the bigger rhythm sound, or an 11s if you want something a little bigger. Acoustics would definitely be 12s, and sometimes you guys push it to 13s, although it's kind of dangerous on the top because there's a lot of tension on the top of your acoustic. Now, if you like to have the better sound with less sizzle, the bigger, rounder sound, you might want to put the big strings on it, but then you can't bend them. So a hybrid set. This guitar, my PRSS2, has hybrids on it. In other words, the first three strings are off a 9 gauge set. They're very small. So it's 9, 11, and 16. Then the next three strings are 26, 36, and 46. Now if this was a 9 gauge set, you can imagine this would be 24, 32, and 42. So it would be much smaller strings. So what I'm doing is I'm having my cake and eat it too. I have a bigger sound, right? But I also have those smaller strings to give me more bends. I put those pretty much on every guitar. It's easier for me. I get lower action and without sizzle, and I get an easier bend. Now, the great thing about hybrid strings is they make them all packages, all styles. So if you want even something bigger than 10s, you can go to 11s. Some guys can get 12s. You can mix and match all you want. In fact, you can pretty much do whatever you want as long as it feels normal. If you get too wacky with some of the string gauges, some will feel really tight and some will feel really loose, and overall when you play your open major chords, they get a little weird, but you may not even notice that, so it's not even a big deal. So this is a quick video. Mostly now, hopefully you understand the adage about strings. Bigger strings can be put lower to the fretboard. They sound bigger and rounder and fuller, and they're generally easier to play. Smaller strings have to be pulled up off the fretboard more and are easier to bend. Now, the last one you might have is, what about the 80 shred guys? Ultra low action, ultra small strings, kind of like Yngwie with 8s on his Strat. That's because with lots of distortion, right, it doesn't matter. Right? It's just, I mean, once you're in there, you can't tell if this is buzzing. Right? It's hard to tell. So that's why they get away with it. Although, like I said, on a clean sound, it's a little harder to hide. So just keep in mind, basically hybrid strings, a great investment, very cheap, probably the best way to get your guitar to play a little better. And most cases, if you play 9s or 10s on a guitar and you go hybrid set, you need little to no adjustment of the guitar, so you don't need a full setup. In fact, I would probably, unless your guitar just needed a setup beforehand, well, it should not need a setup. All right. Thanks for your time, guys. Know your gear.